Welcome to the Wild Pitch Podcast.
All right, we're back with another episode of the Wild Pitch Podcast. So I think maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, you heard Pat Anderson from the Washington Nationals. He had such a great time with us that he immediately called his friend. Tripp, how do you say your last name?
Keister.
TRIPP KEISTER.
Yep.
So I knew it. So he immediately, he had so much fun. He wanted to share the wealth. And we're very fortunate to get another Washington National world champion minor league baseball coach right now. He's the current minor league coach, but has a really great background in college as well that we're going to try and tap into. And Tripp, we were making fun of Pat because I think he wears like Washington Nationals underwear. I've never seen him in a picture. It could be at a communion, a wedding. He's wearing Washington National gear. I mean, he's like the poster child, right?
Well, we get a lot of free clothes, so you might as well just keep wearing them. And you've been there so long, you end up having your whole wardrobe is red or blue with a W on it.
I'm just glad it's like red and navy because he used to be with the Royals and he looked like a, like just royal blue guy head to toe. So now it's a little more subtle and the Nationals have cool stuff. So,
yeah.
But
now Tripp, you've been a manager in the Nats organization, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I think we want to correct Jimmy because he likes to sell people short. He just called you a coach. He doesn't realize you're actually a manager. So.
Wait, what'd I say? I didn't say manager?
Nah.
Oh, it's fine. Hey,
He's the all-time winningest. Aren't you the all-time winningest manager in the system? I know you don't care, but come on, you got to tell me.
Well, I guess that's what they tell me. I don't care. I mean, maybe I'll care at some point, but I just don't care.
Right.
It's kind of a dubious honor, don't you think? The winningest manager at a certain level. You know what I mean?
That's pretty true.
That's like having the most home runs in Bull Durham, right?
That's right. He didn't care. He kind of knew, but who cares, right? You're only as good as the next game, right?
No, that's great. So, so you're going to be well, I guess this year you probably may not manage, right, with all that's going on. But you're going back to Potomac was the plan? Yeah,
the Carolina League is we actually moved to a town. They built a new ballpark for us about 30 miles south in a town called Fredericksburg. So I was really looking forward to opening up a new ballpark. And I don't know if that's going to happen or not, quite frankly, but it doesn't look very promising. So maybe next year we'll get to do that. So, but yeah, at some point we're going to open up a new ballpark, which is pretty exciting.
Now they used to have a team, right? Fredericksburg?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
No, it's Frederick. So the Orioles, Frederick. Yeah. So and they still have a team in Frederick, which is the Orioles organization has a team there. And so Fredericksburg is a little bit farther south on 95 towards Richmond. So that's where we'll be.
And where's that in proximity to you? I'm sorry, Brian. I didn't mean to cut
go
you
ahead.
off. No, I was just asking, where's that in proximity to where you live at now?
See, I live in Newark, Delaware, right outside by the University of Delaware. You guys have probably been through here at least. And so it's about 100 miles from DC, and it's I bet Fredericksburg's probably 125, 130. So it's not far. I mean, I don't live in Delaware during the season, but it's easy to get back. And my children are here. I get to see them. My family's here, so it's kind of nice for me because I'm from this area and travel around to some spots that I'm pretty familiar with.
Yeah, it's awesome. I played in Wilmington. That was a great Yeah.
I live about 20 minutes from Wilmington, and it's a great place to play, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, they have great support, and the crowd comes out, and they've made some since you've been there, they've made some adjustments, some improvements to the ballpark, and and I love coming there because my whole family's here, and I get to see a lot of friends, so I love coming to Wilmington.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Brian, Potomac is where after I got released, right? As I was driving home, I stopped and saw you play there.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. So.
It's probably the same ballpark you played in. It's not. It hasn't changed much. They redid the locker rooms, which are kind of nice, but the amenities for the fans, and it was time for a new ballpark. So it's really exciting that we're getting one built.
That's great.
No, that's good. So, I mean, so you 8 years now managing, right? But so you started out at Delaware State first? Was that?
Yeah. Well, I started off when I got released. I got released in 1996, and from the Mets, played for the Mets, and never got to the big leagues. I was in AAA during spring training that year. Bobby Valentine was our manager in AAA. Dallas Green was still the manager in the big leagues. And then later that year is when they did the changeover where they fired Dallas and promoted Bobby. But anyway, I got released, and then I had my degree, and I knew I didn't want to, start my real life yet. And so I just wanted to stay in baseball. And a friend of mine who was a hitting coach in our organization knew Ray Tanner, who had just taken the job at South Carolina from NC State. And at the time, there were no cell phones. So Ray was in the 96 Olympics. He was an assistant coach with the 96 Olympic team. And I was like calling him from a cell phone or from a pay phone trying to get him. And he calls me from a pay phone at the Olympics. I got the job with him. And so I went down and coached as an assistant coach at the University of South Carolina for 2 years, and which was 2 years that I truly loved being around him and being around, in the SEC, but a great person and Hall of Fame coach like he was great. And then when I started at Delaware State.
Well, what's funny is you get released, and you probably went into a nicer situation when you think about amenities and just atmosphere, right? Because playing in the minor leagues in some of those crappy stadiums, you probably end up over at South Carolina and living the high life.
It was good. I mean, you become a snob in the SEC, that's for sure. A baseball snob, you have everything you need. The one thing that you learn quickly, though, is you got all those things because you need to win. And, the expectations are very high at those schools. And at South Carolina, they had been down for a couple years and had gotten beaten by Clemson quite a bit, which is a big deal. They're not in the same league, but they're obviously a big rival. And then in the SEC, they had been down. So it was exciting, but it was also, hey, your honeymoon's over. As soon as you get there, you better start winning. And the expectation is to start winning. And that was, quite frankly, that's fun. That's fun to be where, I mean, sometimes you go to college baseball programs where they don't really care whether you win or lose. Just, there's not many people that care, I should say. But at South Carolina, they definitely care. And that's a fun thing to be around. That's for sure.
Now, Brian Roberts wasn't there, was he?
No, Adam Everett was our shortstop. And then Brian came in right when I left. Yeah. Right. We played against Brian in the regional. They beat us at North Carolina. And then he's transferred to South Carolina the next year.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Now, so Tanner, obviously Hall of Fame coach.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what was that environment like? What kind of environment did he create that, I mean, you hear about these guys being legendary coaches. We talked before about our coach. What separated him?
Well, when you're around people like that, you don't realize how their greatness, all the time right then. You kind of look back and say, man, he was great at that. And obviously there's things that he does that while I was there that you're learning, but you're not really thinking as much about it because you're just kind of getting through that day and trying to have the best practice you can that day and get your guys as good as they can that day, and then you're on to the next day. But the thing that stuck out the most to me about him, and it was really evident right on, is his integrity. Like, he was not going to compromise anything. And what I mean by that, like, I remember when we played Clemson, it was as big a game, a baseball game. It was almost like a football game, like emotional, like everything riding on every pitch. And you guys know from being baseball players, it's hard to play baseball with that type of emotion. You got to have some sort of, laid back and get into the, enjoy and be able to slow the game down. But when those games were crazy. I mean, people hanging off the, batting cage, trying to get in to see the games. And I remember right before the game, we had an academic advisor, a woman who was great with all our guys and made sure they were getting their study hall and tutors and everything lined up. And she came down about 20 minutes before the Clemson game and said, one of our best players didn't do his hours that week, his study hall, and he didn't play him. And we needed to win, as an assistant coach, I'm just like, man, we kind of need him. And no, I'm not going to do that.
Well, that goes to show you when you're trying to create a culture, right? You kind of have to have that type of approach and mindset so that everybody buys in.
No doubt. I mean, and he didn't care who you were. You were going to I don't want to say he's going to do it his way, because he had a way to do it, but he definitely was not going to shortcut. You're not going to kind of, well, some guys only have to do this many hours because he's a good player. Now, he doesn't play that game. And I learned that from him, and that was awesome. And the other thing that stuck out as I look back, and, there's not a day that I'm not on a baseball field where I'm not affected by what I learned through him and through the people that you've learned from as a coach. So, he doesn't believe in gimmicks. And I've learned that a lot. And I believe in that. I think, you're not going to do a gimmicky first and third play to win an SEC championship. You might win a game, but you're not going to, at the end of the day, you got to be fundamentally sound. You got to field ground balls. You got to turn outs into outs. You got to play good defense. You got to have competitive at-bats. You got to be stronger. You got to, commit to the weight room and being stronger. But, we didn't do a lot of gimmicks, man. We're going to line up and play, turn outs into outs, field ground balls, throw to first, turn double plays. We were fundamentally sound, and he made sure of that. And I believe in that. I really do. I still do to this day.
That's funny, right, Jim? Because what do we see all the time nowadays, right? I mean, all these clowns putting on plays and, and all of a sudden you ask yourself, what the hell are they doing out there?
And that's great. Hey, sometimes a gimmick, like, don't get me wrong, every now and then I'll do whether it's a first and third offensive play or a safety squeeze to get an extra run here. But for the most part, you got to beat the other team, and you got to play better baseball. And over the course of a season, you might give up a pickoff where you get a guy picked off at second base on a gimmicky play, and that's fine. You learn from it. But I always say that's good it happens at our level, because then it doesn't happen in DC. And that's the way I look at it. Is if you get me once, that's great, but then it's never going to happen again. So we learn.
Yeah, I think the challenge, though, right, Jim? What do we see? Guys just running plays off the play after play, right?
Yeah, I'm actually really pumped up that he brought that up, because, Tripp, I sit there next to Chris sometimes and I go, are we supposed to be doing this crap? Like, are we not coaching enough? Because if I tell him I'd rather just keep working on hitting and catching the ball and making plays and cutting angles for my shortstop and learning how to hit a slider. I mean, the stuff that happens every single day, right?
That's exactly right. That to me, that's what our job as coaches, to prepare our team for what's going to happen in the game, right? What happens to win a baseball game every day? You have to do what? You have to field ground balls and throw them to first. Okay, you got to work on that. Got to, field fly balls. You got to be lined up. If there's a double, you got to be lined up with our cuts and relays. Now, obviously, we're not talking about pitching for this particular instance, because you always have to pitch, and you're only as good as who's on the mound. We all know that, but
knowing where you have to be and knowing where you have to go, that's
right.
Key.
You got to run the bases. Base running is a big deal. We got to have competitive at bats. You face a great pitcher for 6-7 innings, but it's a tie game. You got to have competitive at bats against that bullpen. Those are the things that you have to do day in and day out to win a baseball game. Now, do you need to execute a play at times? Well, of course you do. Do you have to defend against pickoffs? Do you have to defend against bunts and first and thirds? Yes, we do, and you do have to be aware of that. But we also have to do those things that happen, most of the time, and you got to be really good at them.
And my thing too is I have a couple friends in the industry that are really bright. They have great ideas, but they're talking about all these special leads off of first and timing. And I said, listen, to be good at what you're saying, that might get a couple more bags a year, but I have to invest a lot of time into something so small to be good at it anyway. So let's just stay with the basics and the meat and potatoes. And, I'm really glad you said that.
It's funny, that's not a popular approach, because, it's not going to get a lot of Twitter followers, and it's not going to get a lot of
sexy.
It's not, but that's how you win baseball games. Yep. And let's be honest, fielding a ground ball, throwing it to first, being in the right spot on cuts and relays, and so that keep a double to be a double, not a triple.
Right.
Let us
knowing where to throw the ball to, right? And then we talked about this too, Jim, right? The double play. That's routine. That's got to be routine. A double play needs to be a routine. These are just examples, but it's obvious. Hearing from you, and like Jim said, it's a breath of fresh air. you know, who's a baseball lifer like yourself sees the game the same way, you know, that we kind of grew up in it. So it's.
Well, it's funny. You and I, we had talked about this before we kind of got on the air, but I'll say it again. I feel like there's times as coaches, and there's some good coaches that have been in the game a while that almost question themselves because of the technology or all of the different tools that are at their disposal. And quite frankly, I find that, you know, the technology and a lot of the data and the numbers are great, but it's just a tool. You know, learn them. They have their place, but there's still that need to go out and, you know, you can't shortcut your way to being fundamentally sound. You can't get on the computer, you know, during this, you know, quarantine that we're all in. You can't be on the computer and go, all right, well, now I know first and thirds and my team knows first and thirds. No, you have to go out and you have to practice. You have to field ground balls. You have to take fly balls, you know, go back on balls, go in on balls, go to your right and left. There's no shortcut to that, and you have to do that. So the technology can give us numbers and can help us, but at the end of the day, it takes what it takes. It really does. You have to go out and you have to practice.
Yeah, I think a lot of what you guys are talking about, it's almost like at times the coaches just want to become too involved. They want to be, you know, they overcoach. They want to be a part of the game and, you know, almost make themselves look better, especially at the amateur level, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I think a lot of people want to be the smartest guy in the room, you know, and I think the best way, and I'll give you an example from the way I approach it. You know, as you guys watch a Major League Baseball game, they're all told where to play, right? We have big detailed scouting reports on Big Poppy, let's say. Well, what are we going to do? We're going to move everybody over. The infield's going to move over. We have a shift. Have the outfielders move over and things like that. So I just said a guy that you would know, but before every Major League series, we have, you know, scouting reports where we're going to play everyone. And believe it or not, in the minor leagues, we get detailed reports on like spray charts, where to play their hitters in the infield and in the outfield. And what I try to do is have meetings with the outfielders, meetings with the infielders. We do pitchers and catcher meetings, and those are important because what happens is in the minor leagues, you have to do what they're going to do in the major leagues. And that's very important that they learn to go through those meetings and that type of thing. But what I do is I won't allow, and this is just me, but I don't allow them to bring cards out there because I feel like I want them, the great part about baseball is using your brain and instincts. And I want them to say, hey man, we're playing this guy, Oppo, in the air, but he's really pulling balls.
Right.
You know, his swings are such where, man, he's lacing balls down the line. I need to move over. And right. I want them to have that feel where, hey man, I'm moving over. I don't care what the scouting report says. And I want them to think the game. And I don't want it to be a basic, well, hey, this card tells me to play right here. But yeah, he just hit a double in the gap after 4, you know, ground or line drives to, you know, he pulled foul, but I didn't move because my card told me to stay right here. You know,
right.
I don't want that. I don't want.
And that's the adjustment part of the game, right? Where guys gotta, you know, they gotta have the feel, as you mentioned, and the awareness to see what's going on instead of just relying on, you know, either the information that was given to them prior to the start of the series or what was put on a card, like you're saying. And I feel like that's being taken away from today's player, you know, even at the amateur level, because, you know, they're just not they don't have the same acumen as they once did, you know, because they're being taught in a different manner.
You're exactly right. And I would bet, I haven't talked with each of you guys individually, but I would bet one of the things that you love about baseball when you, as a player, was you could instinctually, as an infielder, hey, this guy's hitting balls in the 6 hole. I'm going to move over. And hey, I'm going to move my second baseman over up the middle a little bit. And that's the part of the game that I don't want to lose. And that, number one, that's the part of the game that I loved as a player. And now as a coach, I want my guys, even if we lose. Now, I will say in pro baseball, I have the luxury of I'm not going to get fired if I lose a game. You know, I want Victor Robles to go, hey, this guy is Oppo. He's not getting around on our pitcher. I'm not playing him in this gap. I'm going to move over. I'm going to bring my left fielder over. We're going to play him Oppo. And guess what? If we lose a game because of it, and he says to me, Tripp, the reason I moved over was because I saw those foul balls. I'll go, awesome. I want you to keep doing it. You know, even I have that luxury, but I want them. I'll be honest with you. I want this to be the players' game. It's not about me. They need to learn so that when they go to DC and there's a guy who's up to bat and he's hitting balls foul, he's not getting around. I want them to have enough baseball instincts and enough confidence to go, hey, man, I'm moving over. It might win us a ball game in DC because they've thought that and they've been through, that thought process to win a ball game. And that's the way I believe that we've got to continue to teach baseball.
Right. People forget the game kind of tells us what to do a lot of times,
Very much.
Yeah.
Yep.
How much has that changed for you over the last 15 to 20 years with the shifts? And I mean, and maybe the Nationals aren't a great example because they're not the Astros. Or how much are you guys doing that in the minor leagues with the shifting?
Well, one of the things that we've made and I feel like this is really smart, and you guys will too when I explain it, we shift in the minor leagues, not necessarily because it's always the right thing to do for every left-hand hitter, let's say, but because they need to learn how to do it. Because they're going to be asked to do that as they move up the ladder. So we've got to do it. I can't have the first time a guy, when he gets called to AAA and they got a left-hand hitter up and my second baseman, they go, hey, go out in right field. And he's like, I've never done this.
Right.
He's got to do it. And see, the other thing as coaches, what we've got to do, and this is something that I think is really important, is now that we've changed the way we play hitters, both left-hand pull hitters, right-hand pull hitters in the infield, you've also got to change the amount of ground balls they get at that spot, the amount of cuts and relays you got to get them from that spot, the pop-up priorities you need to get them from that spot. Like, for example, you bring that third baseman and put him in that 6-hole as the left-hand pull guy comes up. You bring that shortstop more up the middle, and you bring the second baseman more in the 4-hole. You got me on this?
Yep.
Now that left-hand hitter hits a pop-up right in front of the dugout, in front of the third base dugout. Well, who's got that ball? It used to be the third baseman, but now that pitcher's got to go. And it's just stuff that, sometimes pitchers don't get off the mound on foul balls as much. But, hey, sometimes that ball over in front of the third base dugout, that pitcher's got to get over there. Right. So just little things that you got to think about, but you got to prepare your guys for as the game has evolved. Hey, man, 90% of the outfielders in the big leagues, or of the hitters in the big leagues, pull in the ground, oppo in the air, 90%.
Right.
That's what they are. You can look at the numbers. Pull on the ground, oppo in the air. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. If they move you off of that spot, you don't know a guy, that's where we're going to play. If we have a feel for a guy, then we're going to move around. But that's part of teaching the game. That's the game right there. I mean, being involved and, thinking the game. That's why we love the game so much. I know that's why, I do, but yeah. I hope that's why you guys do.
I think that's great stuff. I mean, obviously, it speaks to, what it means to be able to put guys in in good places, right? And taught in a manner in which they can actually be prepared for when they're moving up the ladder. I mean, I find it interesting to, that's part of the player development now, right? So you're talking about putting them in spots in different situations so that they're prepared the day they get called to the big leagues. So that's a whole nother, dynamic, I guess, dimension that wasn't there in the past.
Sure.
Chris, you and I went to the AA game last year, and my takeaway from that was, man, the second baseman better have a cannon now.
That's right.
I mean, that guy was playing shallow right field. You get a ground ball that takes 3 more hops, you better get rid of that thing and have a cannon, a gun. So the second baseman position they better be very versatile now.
Well, not only that, on those, a lot of the right-hand pull hitters, they'll move that second baseman on the other side of the second. He's basically playing short. So he's got to have a good arm, like you said.
Do a lot in the minor leagues? Do a lot of the guys tend to bunt when there's the shift on them? As opposed to the major leagues where any of those guys can hit home runs.
Sure, and that's something that we've done as an organization. We work on base hit bunting all the time because of that. Even like when Juan Soto was with us, I'll tell you guys a story. We have a rule that all of our position players have to sacrifice bunt at some point during the minor league season. I think it's a good rule because when they get up to the big leagues, maybe they're hitting third or fourth at our level, but when they get up to the big leagues, they're not going to hit third or fourth. They might hit seventh or eighth. They might be asked to bunt. So, so I remember Soto wasn't with us long. He's obviously, you guys probably know, he's a very advanced player. He's a fantastic hitter. He's just kind of he's really come into his own he's been in the big leagues just a little bit, but he seems like he's been there for 10 years, and he's got a lot of potential. But when he was in the Carolina League, we got first and second in a tie game in about the 8th inning, I think. And I'm like, am I really, I'm thinking to myself, am I really going to bunt him here? But all right, let's do it. Now's the time, and let's. So I think he squared the bunt, and it was a bad pitch, and there's a fan, up in the third base bleachers, and he's like, "You're bunting your best hitter? What the heck are you doing?" He's yelling at me, And I'm thinking, if I could have looked up and said to him, "Yeah, I know, buddy, you're right," but you've got to teach them to bunt. You got to teach guys to bunt, and I just laugh because it is a part of the game. Because when they get up to the big leagues and the manager asks them to bunt, and they go, "Well, I've never done that." Well, who are they gonna blame? And it's our fault. It is. It truly is our fault if we haven't asked him to do it. So to answer your question, it's something that we do. Now, it is something that a lot of players on other organizations, I don't know what they do, but I know that is something that we do, and we're conscious of base hit bunting and sacrifice bunting.
Yeah, with the Dodgers, they used to tell us Sean Green hits third in the big league, so you're not hitting third. You better learn how to bunt.
Yeah, well, how about our 3 old guys the last couple of years with the Nationals? Have been Bryce Harper, Anthony Rendon, and Juan Soto. So you're not hitting third for us usually either,
There's only 8 spots left.
What's that?
There's only 8 spots left.
And one of them's a pitcher, right?
Yeah, that's true. Very
but
true.
No, but like I said, teaching fundamentals, it's funny. I've coached in the SEC. I've coached in pro baseball. I've coached in Division III. Coached in lower level Division I, and never once have I gone out there and said, "Well, today I'm going to coach like I'm in a Division III school." No, you just coach baseball the right way, and I don't change the way that I approach anything. You're just teaching and coaching the right way to field a ground ball, the right way to run the bases, the right way to, there is no Division III way, or you just coach the correct way, and those expectations that I have for players don't change. I think, that's the expectation that I have is that, look, you're going to keep trying. You're going to keep doing everything you can to do it right.
That's actually, Chris, you're going to like this. We got to start asking everybody this question. What's your thought process on no doubles?
Wow. Now, I actually am probably against the grain on this because I like it sometimes and sometimes I don't. And I'll give you an example. You got a guy my size, left-handed, not much power, okay? Well, why am I backing everybody up? I haven't hit a ball over their head like in a month. Why would I back everybody up and help them get a hit?
Right.
Or you got a sinker ball guy on the mound, and we back everybody up to no doubles. Well, they're hitting flares in front of them because they can't elevate the ball. So you've created an issue. Now, are you talking no doubles in the outfield or in the infield or both?
Oh, well, I think he's probably referring more towards the infield, though, right, Jim?
Oh, okay.
No, I think both. Like, I just know back. Listen, when I played in 98 to 06, it was like automatic. And I can't tell you how many times I'm playing short and we're up 2, and I get a duck fart or a routine ground to the third baseman, and now we're under pressure. We're under siege.
That's right.
And there should have been an out. And meanwhile, it's a guy like, I haven't seen a ball hit over someone's head in a week, right, that didn't leave the park. So what are we doing, right? So I'm just a little bit of –
Well, that probably lends to what Tripp's saying, though, right? I mean –
I just don't think it's a blanket. And so
I agree.
We have some fun with it where I'm like, guys, why are we giving easy hits up here? And the wind's blowing in. Like you said, I just it's a fun thing we have because Catalanato's our head coach, Frank. And
he probably loves no doubles.
So he says no doubles a lot. I think because, when he played the outfield, he just wanted to take that away from himself. It made his life easy when he played left field. That's what I tell him. But he gives me a look and he goes, "Oh, no." And then Chris goes, Jimmy don't like no doubles. And I'm like, all right, here's good. And,
It's funny you say that because some of your, and look, you guys at New York Tech, me in the, in the Carolina League, we don't have a lot of media questioning our decisions after the game.
Right.
But I refuse to believe that the reason that I'm going to play no doubles is so that if we lose after the game, the media asks, why weren't you playing no doubles?
Right.
That's my answer. Well, and that the reason I played no doubles was because I didn't want you guys to ask me the question.
Right.
You know, I want to.
Right.
You got a sinker ball guy on the mound finishing
Let's
out
put
the
some
game.
thought to it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
let's play some percentages. This guy hasn't hit a ball over our head, in 7 games we played him this year. Why are we back up? Let's make him earn it.
Right. That's probably just another example, as we said before. You know, the game again is providing you with the information that you need to make a decision. You know, and that's just a typical circumstance right there.
You're exactly right.
No
Let the game. Hey, you got guy hammering balls foul down the third base line. Yeah, let's move our guy and no doubles and But sometimes, you know what? I think sometimes we play not to lose. Let's play to win the game. Let's win it. Let's catch that flare that this guy's going to hit, off the end of the bat instead of letting it fall in for a single. Let's play to win the game. Let's win it.
Yep.
You know? I don't know.
So a TRIPP KEISTER managed team. Give me your biggest pet peeve of something you see in a player that drives you nuts and something that you just absolutely love.
Well, the one thing you made me think of something. You guys love coaching like I do. I can tell. And the part that I've always said about coaches is by the end of the season or your time with a player, they should know what's important to you and what's not. I really do believe that. Like if a player doesn't know what I like and what I don't like when they're done, I haven't really done a good job. They need to know, like, it's important to me. It's important to me when we take infield and a throw is offline, the infielder handles the baseball. Because in a game, if they don't get off the bag and handle the ball that's coming from the outfielder, it's going to go into the third base dugout. Now we're going to give them a run. Yeah. Like, it's a pet peeve of mine when outfielders throw the ball in infield and the infielder doesn't handle the ball. It is, because it happens in a game, and that's the only time we get to work on it. It's a pet peeve of mine when a catcher during infield doesn't take it. Well, they always will, but the first time that they don't take it without all their equipment on, they need to take it because that's their only chance to get balls coming from the different angles in the outfield. Okay? And, handling the ball in front of home plate, whether it's a long hop, whether it's a short hop, which I hope it's not a short hop, but whether it's in the air, they get to see the background. All of those things.
Working on putting that tag down, right? Putting that knee down, putting that tag down, working on those things.
And guess what? In the game, the last time I checked, they're going to have all their equipment on.
Yeah.
I mean, right? And if they don't want to have it on, then maybe they shouldn't be catching, right? I mean, I don't know. But so I do feel like, we practice baseball so much, yet do we really practice it that's getting us better for a game? How are we making sure that, like, look, infielders, you guys all played pro baseball. Infielders in game 120, are out there getting their ground balls. Do they need to take 50? Maybe not. But you know what? The 20 that they do take needs to be, let's go. Hey, 2 right at you, 2 to your left, 2 to your right, 2 stretch backhand, 2 stretch forehand, then do your double plays. But let's play it like it's a game. Do that, at your game speed with your game intensity. And that's important to me. That is important to me. It's important to me that the outfielders take balls off the bat in batting practice to get ready for the game. That's important. It's important to me that the first baseman every day in BP, he needs to get his throws too. Because I think the first baseman fielding ground balls, throwing to second, fielding ground balls, and flipping to the guy at first. We don't always. That's not always as important until all of a sudden he throws it by him, and now it's in the first base dugout, and they got an extra base. So I always try to make sure that as the manager, I hit ground balls to the shortstop every day in BP, but I also hit them to the first baseman to make him know how it's important his defense is too. I try to do that.
You'll get a kick out of this, Tripp, because Jimmy and I obviously coaching together, and we'll be there hitting fungos, during BP. And, when you have a competitive environment, sometimes, you got people who feel like they should be playing, or if you have a big roster, you got guys who think they should be playing. And then you watch them in BP, and they don't do anything with any, sense of urgency. Right, Jimmy? We'll have a couple older guys that we're new. They're not necessarily our guys, but obviously they're part of the program. And you're looking at them like, this guy walk into the office and talk about, hey, I want to play. But during BP, what's he doing? He's got his hands behind his pocket. Perfect opportunity to kind of show somebody, hey, I'm engaged, I'm involved, I'm working, I'm trying to get better. And they just let it go past them.
It's crazy, isn't it? When I look out in the outfield sometimes, and you know, when you're throwing batting practice, do you guys all throw BP?
Yeah.
So you throw BP, and there's a ball hit, and you can tell it's a fly ball, and so you'll kind of take a look out there,
And
and if
nobody
it's not
tracking.
caught, I will make a note, like, to ask, like, why didn't you catch that? You know, I won't embarrass them and yell out there, hey, what's going on? But you know, like, I think that's your best time to work on. And pitchers, get away from the guy. I mean, you want him to catch that ball when it's hit, you know, during the game, but yet you're going to talk to him during BP. You know, I just feel like just get away from him, get your balls off the bat, you know, get your work in. Look, if you really think about it, you have 3 groups of batting practice. You're going to hit one of them. Get your work in another one, and then just kind of, you know, work on some other things, but get some balls off the bat, but really work. You know, if you really work, it's amazing how much better.
It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity, like you just said, to get better. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
and the other thing that I really hate that you made me think about was when a guy talks about playing, and sometimes you guys will understand this. You said a sense of urgency. I feel that way with a team sometimes. You know, sometimes a team will be, well, we'll get them tomorrow. We'll get them tomorrow. And you hear that soon enough, and all of a sudden, you know, you're a quarter done your season. And it's like, we keep saying, we'll get them tomorrow. Well, let's get them today, right now, you know? And I feel like, you know, we do a lot of work and we talk a lot about development, but we don't talk enough about 7 o'clock is important. You know, that's important. You know, let's win a baseball game today. What do we have to do to win a game? Base running, compete offensively, turn outs into outs, you know, make a pitch. You know, and I feel like that's important. You know, the sense of urgency is there every day. And, you know, you don't get today back. Let's get better today. You know, I always ask that sometimes, you know, did we get better today? That's kind of the way that I evaluate what's going on with our culture and my staff. Like, hey, man, even if you lose, sometimes you get better. Even if you win, you play sloppy. You guys know you don't feel great about those. So I think it is important that you keep asking yourself those questions: is, do we get better today? You know.
You know, that's awesome. And you know, hopefully we have a lot of kids that listen in and, you know, take that opportunity to get better during batting practice, right? During the fielding. You know, if I look back and would have taken, you know, it's easy to sit in the outfield as an outfielder and talk to your buddies and, you know, talk about whatever, video games. But you take that opportunity to get better every single day and what it does to you, for you.
Well, you know, it's funny, Bryce, as you're saying that, and obviously, you know, this is just about messaging, you know, as we're speaking now, but, you know, I can look back when I was at Tech and I'm a sophomore, you know, not playing a whole lot. And then, I go out to the outfield to shag some fly balls, and I run down the balls during BP and have me the very moment that coach is looking, he's like, wait a minute, maybe this kid can play out there. And so it turns out I get that opportunity, you know, to do that, you know, and who knows, maybe that was the moment that decided it for him, you know? So that's what, you know, you got to seize every chance you can, you know?
No question. No question. Yeah. Well, you know, you asked me a question about what I like too. And I feel like a lot of things that we do in baseball, it's just a game of habits, and you can create good habits and you can create bad habits. And you know, for example, you know, running balls out, you know, and running balls, you know, running out of the box with intent. I think that's really what we're talking about, with intent to get to the next base. So you hit a single, you know, it's, you know, base it up the middle, you know, the center fielder is going to get it. Well, run with the intent that if he bobbles that ball, you're at second base. You know, you hit a double in the gap, you hit a ball in the gap, and you run with intent that they mishandle that ball, that I'm getting to third. And I think that's what I want to try to create. You know, is it likely that you're always going to get that? No, but that one chance that you get, or those 2 chances that you get to second instead of being at first, where the next time a ground ball, it might be a double play ball. Well, now you're at second, and that ground ball to second, now you're at third with less than 2 outs. And it's just replay the inning, you get an extra run, you know, in that inning instead of a double play. And it's just I feel like that's the right way to play baseball. I really do. And, you know, I think when you see guys play the game right, it's a good thing. Even if it's on the other team, like there's been players that you see that, you know, love the way they play. Hate when they do it against us, but I love the way they play, you know.
Before you know it, you're putting a report into that guy probably too.
Sure. I mean, they stick out. You know, guys nowadays that play like that, they just stick out. You know, pitchers that are, aggressive in the strike zone and, getting ahead and throwing all their pitches for strikes. They stick out. They really do. Hitters that are aggressive, selective, they stick out. Guys that run the bases properly, they stick out. They just do.
And in spring training, when they're making cuts, you're pulling for those guys. Those guys are getting second opportunities potentially.
Yeah, no question. I mean, people don't realize that there's a lot of premium put on, can he play the game?
Mm-hmm.
They talk about tools, and tools are great, but can he play? There's a lot of guys in the big leagues that if you put their tools together, they might not be the best, but they can play, and they'll come to get you. And you want them on your team. There's a premium on that too.
How much goes into, I know it was pretty big when we were playing, but when you are making those rosters, and do they come to you and say, hey, you got this guy or that guy, who do you want to come with you to Potomac this year, and who's we're sending home?
Yeah, they do that sometimes. And those are tough positions, because as coaches, you guys understand this, and as a manager, you love them all, man. I do. I try to – you have a lot invested with them, and I'm with those guys a lot more than I'm with my own family in the summertime, and they become my sons. So, they ask me those questions, and you just try to give, as good an answer as you can be. This is why I'll take him, and this is what I think he can do for our team. But, sometimes those are tough questions that you get. And that's the toughest part of this job, obviously, is, ending someone's career, obviously, we've all been there. You guys, as have I, as a player. The game tells you when your time is over sometimes, but it is a hard day, and that's not something that I ever look forward to. That's for sure.
Yeah. Tripp, obviously you've been on the pro side for a while now, but take us back to the collegiate days, right? And let's talk a little bit about that recruiting process, and obviously, your background allowed for you to be able to evaluate and, determine what was a good fit athletically, but I guess first tell us, at a South Carolina, what are you looking for there on the baseball end, and then also some of the intangibles or some of the things off the field that matter to you and the program?
Yeah, I've just been through the recruiting process with my son. My son's a senior in high school, and he's going to go to the University of Maryland to play baseball. And he kind of went through the process a little bit.
Well, congratulations on that, buddy.
Yeah, well, hopefully, this has been a tough spring for him, as you can imagine, with no baseball in his senior year. But he's excited, love the coaches.
What position does he play? Big guy? What's he?
No, he's shortstop, little middle infielder. He pitches in high school, but he'll play infield.
He can run?
He can hit. Yeah, he's getting there. He's all right. He's strong. He's getting stronger, so he's getting some power too, rolling into that. So but he works at being a player. He works at it, and he's been around. He kind of grew up in my dugout, so he knows the way you're supposed to work, and he's got some pretty good guys to model, in terms of shadowing their what to do during BP and things like that. But I've always felt that the whole student athlete was such a cop out. I've always that terminology where you're student first and the athlete comes second. I've always felt like that's such a cop out. Why can't you be great at both?
Right.
The student is important, but so is the athlete. I'm not giving you a scholarship to come in here and, hey, you got a 95 on his chemistry test, but he hasn't gotten a hit or shown up at practice in a week. I understand it is important. I'm a guy who's got my master's degree. I value education, but I also know that, you can be excellent at everything that you do. Why wouldn't we? That's what we want, right? So, there is a premium on let's be the best athlete we can be. Let's be the best student we can be too. I'm not saying that, but I've always felt like, the student comes first and the athlete comes second. We're giving you 50% of a scholarship here, which is a lot of money. We need you to be a good baseball player too. That needs to be a part of your, of what you do. And so what I always felt like was the commitment to being the best student you could be and being the best athlete you could be was 100% of your commitment. Being the best social life college guy you can be, that's not my deal. Right. That's your deal. You know what I mean?
And that's a challenge, ain't it, Jim? Because we see guys who, don't understand that sacrifice. You know what I mean? Like you're being provided a platform and an opportunity, and given some type of financial, I guess, means to be able to attain both an academic and athletic, career for 4 years of college. But they want to put that aside so that they can go hang out with their friends, or they want to, they don't, when you're looking at the totem pole, you got, like you said, social life here, academics here, and then athletics down there. And it just doesn't, it's not a good fit.
Yeah. And like we talked about earlier, to be the best you can be, which is really what we're after. We're trying to get every player to reach to be the best version of themselves, right? I mean, that's what we've been talking about with the Nationals for so long. So what does that mean? It means something different to everybody. But that's what we're after as coaches and leaders of young men, is we want them to be the best people they can be. And how do you do that? Work habits, teamwork, your commitment to excellence in everything that we do. If that means that you're going to miss some time out at the bars or out hanging out with the college guys, that's not my deal. That's I don't ever look back at college and say I regret not going to a party or whatever. But I certainly look back and say I wish we had gone to a regional every year instead of my senior year. You know what I mean? That's
Sure.
But that's just me. And in order to be committed to the best college baseball program that you can be, I think that's the way you have to approach it. You have to get guys that is important to them. And that's what I've learned about, whether it's whatever level you're at, Division III, LSU in the SEC, South Carolina in the SEC, it doesn't matter, man. You've got to be committed to being the best that you can be. And you've got to get athletes. Obviously you're not going to get the same athletes in Division III that you're going to get in the SEC, but you can still get the same level of commitment, I would hope. And that's the way you have to approach it as a coach too. I think you coach to, all of that is important. The weight room, the summer ball, the
right.
Getting ready for your season. Yeah, I think that's all important.
The summer ball, Jim.
Yeah.
Tripp, what advice would you give to parents that since you just went through the recruiting process and, it's a tough process for parents. It's a lot easier when you have a kid that's a Power 5 conference type player. But how'd your son go about getting the exposure?
It's funny, as baseball guys, we know that baseball doesn't work like football. They got like 5 hats laid out on the desk and they're going to pick their hat and it's like full ride. You're like, yeah, baseball doesn't work that way. I think we all know that.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think obviously the summer baseball stuff, and look, I'm telling you this as a dad that was never even around in the summer because I'm out coaching my team. And I've never watched my son play baseball. I mean, think about that as a dad. It's hard because I'm always away. So obviously your high school season, I still say high school sports are important. I know that people are saying, in other sports that, that's not, and the travel and all this, but I still put a premium on the high school team in the season. And then obviously the travel stuff, going to the right tournaments and showcases for your area. And you need help with that. Because I didn't know anything about it. I had some people kind of tell me look, Kevin needs to go to this and he needs to go to this. And it costs money. It is expensive. But, so we just did that and he developed relationships through the coaches and his travel organization. They really did a great job of helping him get in front of the right people. And
who was he playing with?
He played with a group out of Westchester, Pennsylvania, All-Star Baseball Academy. Okay. Mike Manning, but is run and the coach of his team was a guy named Darren O'Neill, who was fantastic. He really helped him a lot with infield, but also helped him a lot with making sure he played the game right, which I thought was awesome. So yeah, that and then going to those things in Jupiter. And what's the one? Fort Myers.
Fort Myers, yeah, underclass.
And then what's the one down in Atlanta, East Cobb or something?
Yeah, all perfect game events. Yep.
All those events, and so Kevin went to those and developed a relationship with one of the coaches at Maryland, and that it kind of was pretty. He developed that relationship. They saw him play a lot, and I had actually scouted the kid who, as a kid, now he's hitting guy and recruiting coordinator at Maryland. And so I had known the type of player he was. And I actually really enjoyed getting to know him as a player. And now that he's going to be around my son for the next, 3 or 4 years is awesome too. I'm excited that that group of guys, that staff, it was the right fit for my son. And you really have to pick out the right fit for your son, because I don't want Kevin to go somewhere where he doesn't have a chance to play for 2 years either. I don't want that. And I want him to be at the best level he can go and have a chance to play. So, and I felt like he had a great relationship with the guys, and let's do it,
Yeah, so they pretty much picked him out at Perfect Game events. Did he wind up going to one of their team camps on campus as well?
No, I think they did like a tournament that was on their campus, like through another organization, and so he played there, and they saw him there, I think. But he didn't go to any. We didn't do any camps because he always did basketball, so we could never do it.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So
we have a kid we coached at high school is going to Maryland as well, but he's I guess a 22, maybe.
Okay.
But I think what you're saying about that staff, he had explained to me how they're talking hitting with him and how they want him to come in and their approach, and they were awesome. Like, I don't know them, but they sound like they got their stuff together. Especially with what we all believe. So
it's funny, they did a PowerPoint on a lot of their when we went in and visited. We did a PowerPoint, and they did a lot of like what they believe in, like from a baseball standpoint. I thought it was awesome. It was exactly, especially the hitting, and most of the stuff was exactly what we talk about with the Nationals. And I really felt it was awesome the way that they presented all their baseball, what they teach and the way that they do things. It was fantastic, and it was a lot of what we did with the Nationals. So, yeah, I feel the same way.
And listen, like I said, my biggest thing, you're a product of your environment. Imagine your son not taking ground balls with pros every year, where his game would be if he's not hanging out in your dugout, right? I mean, that is just like the golden ticket to become a good player, to just be.
It is. But yeah, the one thing that I've always said to him, if you want anything, you have to work.
Yep.
And so, like, yeah, he's been in the dugout, but I will be forever grateful to a bunch of my players, and I've thanked them. I still text them and thank them, but I had a couple guys that took Kevin at an early age and saw that he was pretty good, and they got on his ass about lifting. They're like, hey, man, you better get in the weight room. Who are you? You can play a little bit, but you better get stronger. And they text him, I don't do a lot of Instagram and stuff. I'm not real good with that, but they Instagram DM him and make sure he's lifting and get your butt in the weight room. And then our strength coach is he and Kevin have got a good relationship. So he sent him some workouts, but it's been good because I've had some players get on him really, really good. Like we've had some really good infielders come through. And Kelvin Gutierrez, we traded him to the Royals. He got up and down in the big leagues with the Kansas City last couple years. And he took Kevin. He was like, yo, man, let's go. Like, let's go. You're coming out with me. And it was good. Carter Keyboom has been in the big leagues, but Louis Garcia, they've been on him, but in a good way. Like, let's go, man. It's
right. Been. How old was he when he started? How old was he when he started to figure, hey, you know what, I better start listening?
Yeah, 10th grade, he kind of he was tasting himself a little bit, and I'm the cool dude, and those guys jumped him, and it was great. And he's been working, and that's the one thing that I really, respect about any players that work, that I really root for guys that work. And Kevin has grabbed me sometimes, and I made it a point during basketball season that I don't want you to play baseball during basketball season. I want you to be a basketball player. It's what's right for your team. And this was the first year that during basketball season, he said, hey, I feel like we need to keep swinging. On days I don't have basketball, can we go hit? And we did. And it was good because I felt like we weren't cheating basketball, but yeah, we're still getting some work in baseball. And I felt good about that. So I wanted him to be a basketball player. I didn't think it was fair that wasn't right for his basketball team to go, miss a weekend because you're doing some fall or winter showcase. I just didn't think that was right. I don't think that's right. To miss
Well,
your
you're still in a sense of commitment into them too, right? Understanding when you sign up for something, you got to see it through, you know? So,
That's right.
what I also find interesting is that obviously he has an athletic background playing another sport. How important do you think that is for like young athletes, being involved in other, different, I guess sports outside of baseball for their own physical developments?
Well, I mean, the canned answer, of course, everybody wants it to happen. The question is, can it all the time, and I wish guys would do more sports and it was much more of a premium on that. I think it helps tremendously. I think one of the things that no one really talks about is, I know I played football and I loved, the teammates a lot of times that I had in football were not the same teammates that I had in baseball. And being around another group of guys and getting tougher and a different type of and style of coaches, I love that part. And, we never talk about the different teammates that you get and the different friendships that you make in different sports. But, sometimes, like in the football team that I played on in high school, there was only a couple guys that played baseball. But that's a great group. And to this day, I have great memories of, having, playing football and, having, you know how it is. You remember stories. You don't always remember games, but you remember teammates and you remember stories. And they're just great stories. And I think, the athleticism, obviously, you can get that from going and doing your personal training, but I just feel like everything else that comes with playing another sport, whether it's be coaches, teammates, I just think it's all good and go commit to being the best you can be in that sport too. I think it's great. You don't get burned out from playing baseball nonstop,
No doubt. So real quick though, before we let you go, what pro ball and college, which do you like better, being coach of, or managing?
Well, the one thing that I always felt like with college, to do college baseball right, it's a 300, people don't realize it's 365 days. I mean, you better be on your game, because, that record that goes in the newspaper, that score, that's on you, and that's on your staff. And, you always make sure you got, in college, you're always recruiting. You're always recruiting. You're always trying to do some type of camps, whether it be to help out with the budget or to help pay your assistants. You're always representing your program. I actually love them both. I mean, I love them both. I love working in the game. The pro game, I don't think it's fair to ever think that we're not teaching in the pro game too. Like I'll give you an example. A lot of people, and you guys all played pro baseball, and people will say, it's a business. Professional sports is a business. Professional baseball is a business. But it's not to me. It's personal. It's very personal. The players that I coach, the staff that I work with, I would never just think of them as business. They're much more important to me than that. And I try to recognize that I'm grateful to the players. I've learned a lot from players. I've learned a lot about what they want out of me, what their expectations are, what their hopes and dreams are. And the reality is guys aren't going to all make the big leagues, but they're going to be great fathers. They're going to be great husbands, great workers. And, that's why it's professional baseball and getting and being and working in baseball and coaching and getting to know guys and investing in people is great. And that's what I like to do. And just so happens that I work in baseball.
No, I mean, I felt like the minor leagues was very developmental. I mean, those guys tried teaching you, every day. And I'm really big on kids getting out there and signing right away, get in that system, get in that environment, being with the mentality like your son, experienced where, it's really serious stuff.
Yeah.
But, it's you guys have such a huge impact on those players, for what you do. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Well, I wanted to leave you with this too. I wanted to make sure I said this. It's funny, as coaches, we've talked a lot about the way things are, evolving as, sometimes people get involved in coaching and they don't really have a background that we would have, let's say. And that's okay. There's a lot of people that get involved in coaching for different reasons. The one thing that I will say is I would always say that people now, baseball players now, a lot of them are very good at doing baseball, but I don't know that they're really good at playing baseball. When they learn how to play the game, it's such a great game. And it's our job, whether it's, little league, whether it's, high school, but when you teach the game properly, it doesn't change. Teaching them how to run balls out and take your turn at first base. When you teach it in high school, it doesn't change when you get to our level. It's still the same way,
Right.
and that's why I feel like it's such a great game, and don't just do baseball. Well, yeah, we're going to go out here and we're going to get on the iPad. We're going to look at your swing. And no. Let's play baseball. Let's be fundamentally sound. Let's make that other team, have to play baseball to beat us. Because when you do that, man, it's a great game. And those guys see they see that what you're working toward is working. What you're doing, the fundamentals that you're emphasizing are working.
Yeah. That's great stuff.
The instincts, though, are just, we tell them all the time, we're trying to teach instincts at the college level, and you can't, because I know a lot of us, we had it when we were in third grade. We were deeply invested in the game. We knew everything about it, where to throw the ball, and we just had a feel for it because we watched it all the time. It's hard at your level to teach a kid that age to have a feel for base running, and because it's a natural thing, unfortunately. And that's the biggest thing. Chris and I talk about it in our dugout all the time. It's just, there's nothing we can do. It's not even the kid's fault half the time.
It's not, but you got to keep talking the game, man. You got to keep, like, when a situation comes up, I'll tell you guys a good story. So I keep the old-fashioned dugout lineup. Like, I write it out. I don't use a computer. We have it, but I prefer to write it out, like on a big dugout, like a chart. Yeah. And so we're playing the Red Sox a couple years ago, and I'm always I really want the starting pitchers in the dugout paying attention, because I want them, because if they're pitching the next night, they can pick up tendencies. If they pitch against them another series, pick up tendencies. We're playing the Red Sox in the first inning. And Rafael Devers, who's now in the big leagues with them, he comes up and hits a double, 2-run double in the first inning. And I kind of stand or sit right near the lineup, and I'm looking, and I'm kind of looking at my lineup, and he hit out of order. So I'm kind of looking back and forth at the ball and at my lineup, and I say something to the catcher. I go, hey, hold on. Well, Eric Fetty, a pitcher who's not pitching that day, who's one of our starters, he goes, Tripp, he just about out of order. And he was paying attention.
He was on it, yeah. And
I loved it. And he knew it just as I was kind of double checking. And he's like, hey, he just hit out of order. So I go out to the, you got to, show the lineup, and he hit out of order. And what their manager had done was he printed out a lineup that he handed to the umpires and me, and he printed out a different one that he hung in the dugout. And so that's the one that he hung in the dugout was not the one that he gave to me. And the 3 and 4 hole hitter, 4 whatever, had been flip-flopped. So, but the fact that he paid attention to that, and it just goes to show you, if you pay attention in anything, you can learn something. But he was on. I loved it. I love that story. I tell that story all the time, guys. Pay attention.
I think that's invaluable that you just said that, because being a student in the game, right? And watching, even when you're not particularly involved or you're not in the game in that current situation, you will develop just by listening and checking out what's going on and being aware. And you probably remember this, Jim. Hirsch. We talked about Hirsch off camera before. He looked down the dugout and just asked him, "Hey, what's the count?" He wanted to make sure that you knew what was going on. What's the situation? And I think that's an invaluable lesson, because it'll speed up your development process, right? If you're in tune, and that's part of you being able to impact the game as you continue to play. So,
no doubt, pay attention, man. It's amazing what you learn watching it on TV, and I don't think people watch as much on TV anymore, especially now that's not on. But I think, but yeah, watching the game, you're at a baseball game, so you can learn. You got 3 hours. Pay attention. It's amazing what you learn.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I got to say, Pat was, he said you were awesome, but he undersold you.
Yeah.
I would invite you guys to come see us play. If you get a chance, I'd love to have you guys come out and come early. I'll get you on the field to watch us do all our pregame work and all our work around the cage during BP. And you'd love, I think the one thing about baseball that when you start getting to a higher level, you realize that 7 o'clock is just kind of the culmination of a long day. You got your BP, you got your early stuff. It's just fantastic. We do a lot of early work. There's a lot of expectations with the Nationals at our level that those guys, when they move up, they've got to be prepared fundamentally, team fundamentals, individual fundamentals. And I would love to invite you guys out to come on out on the field, man. Just come down and check us out.
No, we all have little boys, so we would love to come down, man. That'd be great.
Oh, yeah.
Road trip. Hopefully you get out this year. I mean, we'll see what happens. But I feel for you guys not having anything to do right now. But
just watch Michael Jordan every Sunday at 9 o'clock.
Hey, how awesome is that? Like, your players need to be watching that, right?
I hope they are.
I tell my college guys, you better be watching this.
How about last week? He's like, I have a competitiveness. I have a competition problem. I thought that was the best line of America. I have a competition problem.
So the funny thing is, I tell Phil Jackson's line, right? And I go today, I type your name in, and you tweeted the line that I sent to our staff.
Awesome.
About, I have it, you're only a success at the moment you perform the act. So where we went to the College World Series last year, and we're always trying to find like that motivation or realizing like that's over, guys, because we had a little bit, I feel like what do you call it, Chris? A hangover from it?
Yeah.
So we got punched in the mouth our second weekend of the season, which was good for us, but then we got canceled. So, but that, I love that line. And yeah, I saw that you tweeted it out. So I guess great minds think alike. So I'm going to put myself.
How about that? It's funny. You guys always talk about Coach Tanner, and you just made me think of it. Coach Tanner was the best I've ever seen at once you've beaten up the bully, once you become the bully, of getting his team ready to play. It took him a lot to get to the College World Series. They went for a while, but he plays that role and he gets his team ready about it's easy sometimes to be the underdog, but when you're not and you're you have to be the bully and you have to be, come to play and take everyone's best shot every night.
Right. That's when the real hard work begins. Right?
That's when, Jordan and Phil Jackson talk about that all the time about, they when they got over that hump, and now to do that every year and how exhausting that was. But no, that's been a phenomenal. I hang on. I can't wait for it to come over. As soon as it's over, I can't wait for the next one.
It fits your mentality perfect, right? I mean, come on, it's unbelievable.
And my son's a big LeBron. Everybody nowadays.
No, it's not even close. Not even close.
Come on now.
So is he coming around though? Is he at least going, all right, maybe this isn't a comparison anymore? Or is he still fighting for LeBron?
No, and the way I've approached it, I actually really like LeBron. Don't get me wrong. I think we are so fortunate to have been able to watch Jordan and then to watch LeBron, because he's iconic as well. I mean, he's fantastic and one of the all-time greats. So I just feel like so lucky that we've had a chance to be around to see both of them. For me, of course I'm a Jordan guy. I think he's the best winner of all time. He is. But I like LeBron too. I love Kobe. I'm sure, it's so sad and, all that. Love Kobe too. Those guys are just iconic, man. They're just great. I hope they do one on everybody. I can't wait to watch it.
I think Kobe was the most like Michael though with that. He's just a sick competitor and what he's doing.
Assassin.
Yeah. And we have a local guy that lives in my town that we all know very well. And, he did some business dealings with him through the body armor and stuff. And they say he is brilliant and he just wants to win. And he brought that business to another level. He's just an animal, unfortunately. That was just awful. But LeBron, I think, is just a product of his culture. He's like the kids. He cares about his image, and I don't like him at all, though.
You don't? He made one mistake. He had that thing where he chose him going to South Beach. That's all he's ever. I mean, what could he do? He doesn't do anything wrong.
He's
a good man.
He's a selfish man. No.
You think?
Yeah.
Well, I think you have to. I don't know. I think you have to be a little bit selfish to be the best in the world at something.
Yeah, he's not bad, right? I don't think he's as bad as.
No, and I'm not coming from a place of like, I'm not gonna like hammer the guy. We only have 10 listeners, so it's not like
he does a lot of good things.
I'm not a fan at all, though. Brian, you've seen him in person, though. The freak, you said, as far as a player.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Well, Tripp, now you know why this is called the wild pitch, because you got Jimmy over here talking about LeBron stinks. So,
I do like the NBA. Watching the old NBA and how Lane Bear's just throwing haymakers and guys going in the lane. I'm so glad they don't do that anymore. I mean, I really am. I mean, and I know Scotty and Michael would probably be fantastic in today's game with where they spread it out and more freedom of movement. And I think LeBron would have been good in that game because LeBron's a man now.
Right, he's physical.
And but just I'm glad that they're not allowed to do that anymore. I mean, come on, that's not watching basketball. Guy's throwing haymakers when he's going in the lane. Come on, you can't do that.
Nick said Oakley and Mason, right?
Oh, man. I mean, it's just funny watching that Jordan stuff. It's just about 11 o'clock on Sunday night, man. That's when you need to schedule your workouts.
Right, ready to go.
I think I'm still a little chapped because in 2001, I believe, or 2, I'm playing in Akron, Ohio in AA, and the chaplain says to us, guys, there's this kid, he's a sophomore. If you want, I'll bring a bus, a van to the stadium, and I'll take you out to see this kid play high school. And I think the game is at like 11 a.m. And you know how we start later into the season, or we're a little tired. So we all passed on this opportunity to go see LeBron James play as a 10th grader. And
that's who it was, huh?
Yeah. So we were a little I regret that big time because I know he played in like a really cool gym that was small and packed, and it would have been pretty awesome to go see. So maybe that's why I'm a little just
still bitter.
Yeah, I feel bitter about it. So.
Well,
Tripp,
man,
great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. This has been awesome, man. I gotta tell you, you have a great way about yourself, and and the way your message is spot on, and we greatly appreciate it. One of the things a buddy of mine who's with the Pirates, who I played with for a long time, told me, and he was on this show. He talked about, us being former guys and still involved in the game. You're the caretakers now, right? So
right.
You certainly embody that with the way you take, your approach there, and as you said, you get invested. So kudos to you, man, and keep up the hard work, and good luck to you in your career, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I hope this is not the end. I hope you guys get a chance to hang out with you guys a little more.
No, absolutely. We'll do this again.
Yeah, we'll definitely have you more, keep in touch, have you on again if you don't mind. And I would love to bring the kids and stuff and go watch you play and see how you go about it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to have you guys see it because I think it's when you see all the work and the length of the day and what that entails. It's you guys know, but it's nice for people to see it.
Yeah, I want to see how it changed too. In the last 20 years. I'm sure. I know it's a little different. So from when we all played.
A lot of information and just how you make sure that gets how that gets presented to the players and make sure that you're still a premium on playing the game at 7. Don't get too caught up in everything else. Just go play, and we'll help. We'll get you better. We'll take care of that. But you just worry about playing.
Yep.
Excellent.
All right.
Well, everybody, to our audience out there tuning in, thanks again, and until next time.